In this video I will continue to create a piston and a piston rod that will fit inside the crankcase. But first I will hide the cover. So I select the cover and then right click. I choose hide selected. And if you find the hole a little bit too edgy, there is a settings that you can do. If you select the crankcase and then right click to then select part properties. Here in the menu you find rendering, and here surface smoothness. I will turn that slider up to 50. Of course you can even have 60 or so, but I click OK. But if you have an assembly, a large assembly with lots of parts, if you have a high value on smoothness, of course it will affect the graphics card, the performance of the graphics card. But in this case it's only one part, so it will not affect the graphics card. And if you want to have the same smoothness on all the other parts that you will add to the scene, you have to go up here to the options button, and here in this window you find in this menu parts, and here you find surface smoothness. I will type 50 here and I'll click OK. Then all the other parts that I will add to the scene will have a smoothness of 50. If you want to have the same smoothness of the parts that already are in the scene, then you have to select everyone and do the same procedure as I did with the crankcase. But now I will continue to create the piston. I will right drag a cylinder. Right drag. I use the smart snap. I hold the shift key and I will select this edge. When I let go of the right mouse button, I will choose drop as part from this menu, and I will click OK here. And it is a very small cylinder because my camera view is so close to the crankcase. But anyway, perhaps in your case it will be a very large cylinder. Well, you can grab the diameter handle and make it smaller so that you can see the holes. And because then we will snap this handle to the this edge. So we will use the snaps function. Press and hold the shift key, and I will snap to that edge. But now it seems that it will not work with this snap function. So I will move the cursor a bit to snap to another edge or another face. Then I go back. Then it will work, like so. So it's now it is diameter is 31, and that's okay because the hole in the crankcase is 31. I will change the length of the piston to 30, like so. Then I will add more material to the piston. I will use the spin wizard to do that. I choose spin wizard, and I will click on this face or this snapping point. Here in this dialog I will choose add material, click next, and there will be 360 degrees, but I will choose this one along the selected surface because it will spin along this surface. Along the selected surface I click next and I click finish. Here I choose continue without change. That means that I will remain in my camera view that I have now, and I got the grid, but the piston disappeared, and that's because if we come over to the property browser, I have chosen hide edited part, so the whole part disappeared. If I click hide edited IntelliShape, then I will see the piston, this IntelliShape, and I need that one because I have to use this face as a reference face. So I will choose hide edited IntelliShape. Then I come up here to choose the project command, and I will project this face to the grid, and I got a line, and press escape to exit the command. Then I grab this endpoint and drag that to the origin. I will also zoom in a bit. Then I come up here to grab the polyline command, and perhaps in your case these boxes are checked. show curve dimensions and show endpoint dimension. We will see what the difference is. If I click on the endpoint here, I will start here. You see that when you see the curve dimensions and endpoint dimensions, there's a lot of dimensions here so it's hard to see the line. So if you uncheck these boxes, because you don't need them right now, then you can see the line. And I will drag the line perpendicular in this direction. You see the green dotted line also, that helps you to see that you are moving the cursor or the line perpendicular to x-axis. I will right click here and I will type 2 and hit enter. I will drag perpendicular in this direction and I will right click and I type 8. In this direction, perpendicular, I'll right click and type 9.3, hit enter. And in this direction, perpendicular, I'll right click and type 5. And in this direction, perpendicular, right click and type 4 and hit enter. Of course, I could finish the line by clicking on the y-axis, but I will press escape here. Then when I click finish, IronCAD will draw the rest of the lines. So I will click finish and you will see that now this line and that line is now drawn because IronCAD did it for us. So I deselect the piston and I will add some blends to the edges. So I click blend edges command and the radius will be 1 millimeters. So I click on this edge and that edge and also this one and that edge and I click finish. Okay. Now we have added enough material to this part of the piston. But now we will add a piston rod. And to do that we have to open the crankcase. So we will use a special tool for that. We come up here to the Tools tab and here under Operations we find Section Part Assembly. Now it is gray, that's because we haven't selected any part yet. So I will select the crankcase and then I come back here to Operations. Now it is active. Now we can activate the Section Part Assembly command. So I click on that one and here in the property browser we can choose section tool type. There are several tools or section tool types, but we'll use parallel to face. And we have to click on this one because we have to define the section tool. And it will be parallel to this face. So I click on this face here and we can see an arrow that is pointing in that direction. It means when we will move this section tool to the left, it will open. We can see inside the crankcase. But here we have a toggle button. We can toggle the direction, but it will be in that direction. Then I click OK. But we cannot see anything because we have to move the section tools. We come over to the scene browser, select the section tool, and then we turn on the tribal. And then we can grab this handle and push a bit so that we can see inside the crankcase. But I want the section tool in the center of the crankcase, so I will right click on this handle while this axis is selected. Right click on the handle to center point of that hole, and now it is in the center, and turn off the tribal. Now we can add a rod to the piston, and I will left drag a cylinder, drop it here in the center, and I will change the diameter because that rod will fit inside that hole. So the diameter of the rod will be 5. I will select this handle, hit type 5 and hit enter. And I will also add a blend on this edge or blend that edge. I come back to the feature tab, choose blend edges, and the radius will be 1 millimeter. So I click that edge and then I click OK. like so. Then we have to move the piston so it will be 1 millimeter from the bottom. So I select the piston and turn on the tribal. Select that axis, right click on the handle, center handle to center point. But I cannot find any edge or face. That's because the section tool is hiding the geometry. So we have to do or change the settings. So I will turn off the tribal. I will select the section tool here in the scene browser. Then I right click. Here we find precise mode. If I click that button, if I go back, then I will see that now it is selected. So now if I select the piston, turn on the tribal, select that axis, right click to center point, now we find the edge. The center point of this edge or this circle, and it must be 1 millimeter from the bottom. So I will grab this handle, drag a bit. I will type 1 and hit enter. So then we have it in the right position. Turn off the tribal. And also I will change the length of the piston rod. So I click so that we see the handles. I will grab that handle. When I drag, I press and hold the control key to use snap increment. And I will drag up to 74, like so. Because later on I will add a piston joint on this one, and on the then there will be a crankshaft attached to the piston joint and also to the crank disc. So, well, we come over to the scene browser, we select the section tool, right click, and we suppress the section tool so we can see the whole crankcase, like so. And if we want to go back of any reason, we can just unsuppress the section tool and we can see inside the crankcase again. Okay, well, I go back to my starting point, the starting view. I will click Fit Scene. After that, I will save the scene.